Okay, this is a reaction video. This is another one from Passport 2. Please click like, share, and subscribe for them, and like, share, and subscribe for me as well. Things Germans do way more than Americans. Well, this is going to be interesting. I'm kind of curious about this one, but here we go. Things Germans do way more than Americans from Passport 2.
In a world where TikTok videos, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts seem to be degrading our attention spans as a species, there is one country that rejects this trend and has decided to build, make, and do everything way longer than necessary. Well, or at least longer than what we do in the U.S.
So he's not really suggesting that Germans don't use YouTube or Instagram or TikTok.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. The famous American author and comedian Mark Twain once said, "Some German words are so long that they have a perspective." As he described the words, Germans love to build to contain dozens and dozens of letters. But in the nearly 3 years that we have lived in Germany, there are other things that we have observed Germans do or make a lot longer than we had ever experienced in the US, from toilet paper to TV shows. What else
Longer toilet paper? I guess that does make sense.
do Germans draw out a lot longer than Americans? Well, that is exactly what we are going to talk about today in our video, Live Long and Prosper.
As quoted by Mr. Spock from Star Trek.
But how long does this go on for? First, I have to say that we are originally from a state in the southern U.S.
He's from Oklahoma, okay, and that's north of Texas, east of New Mexico, west of Arkansas, and south of Kansas.
It's called Oklahoma, and now live in the southwestern German state of Rhineland-Pfalz. And that both of these places have their own unique subcultures that may not be representative of the two countries as a whole. Therefore, let me know your individual experiences with these things in the comments below and where you were from. And let's just remember, just because one place does something one way and another place does something another way, doesn't always mean there are rights and wrongs. Maybe just
I wonder what, I've said this in other videos. Why do people have to say that? Just because you do it one way and the other is right or wrong, who cares?
simply different ways of doing things.
It's almost like you have to appease somebody if you don't say it the right way.
The first time that I ever came to Germany was in 2014 when I was a junior in college and I took part in a study abroad program. I made an interesting observation immediately upon arrival to my hotel, which I took as a testament to the modern marvel that German engineering is, and it was that German toilet paper squares, or really I should say rectangles, are longer than American toilet paper squares.
Now, I don't know that when I was there, that was something I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to. I mean, yes, I did use the facilities, okay? And yes, I did have to use the German toilet paper. But I don't think I ever studied it and said, you know what, this is a lot bigger than the one I have back home.
I know. I was shocked as well, but I'm also not alone in this discovery, as this past Christmas, when we had family come visit, our sister-in-law also immediately noticed this lengthier ply and let us know her shock from the size as well. For those of you interested,
That also makes it, if you were in a German bathroom, would you come walking out, hey, look, this is longer than ours? I mean, I
did do my very scientific research and texted my brother in the US to measure a square for me, while I measured the dimensions of the German teapot.
Wow, that is amazing. That really is. I mean, I can only imagine if I called my friend back home, or called my brother was with me, or my sister, somebody, my sister was back in the United States. But if I called them and I said, hey, do me a favor, go and measure a square of toilet paper, just one square. I got to know. I mean, this is too much information that I need right now. But it's something that, okay.
Here at home and found this to be the comparison. So, why is German toilet paper squares longer than American? Well, my question to you is, how many squares do you rip off at a time? My assumption based on years of...
Do you really want to know that answer? Tell me something. When you go to use the facilities, how big of a wad of toilet paper do you use when you... Come on.
Personal research is that Americans are probably more likely to rip off at least 2 squares at a time, whereas Germans may tear off fewer because of the higher paper to square ratio. So perhaps the slightly longer rectangle that is not quite as long as 2 American squares discourages tearing off more than 1 at a time, and over time, this saves paper? Let me know what you think.
We just had a discussion here about wiping one's rear end, okay, and how I don't care. I really don't.
Like Mark Twain noted, one thing that Germans are world famous for is inventing insanely long words. People often joke about words like this 80-letter word, or Germany's word of the year from 1999 coming in at 63 letters.
I was thinking of pausing and trying to pronounce it, but I'm not sure I could.
But these aren't actually words that you would hear today in everyday language, really, but partly only because this word was a
Rindfleisch, Getrunksburwashing, Sofarben, Nubertegutset. How'd I do?
A law that was repealed in 2013. In fact, Germans even find these types of words a little bit silly and have even used this as a marketing gimmick at times by giving some things ridiculously long names just to grab your attention, like, how often do you find yourself cooking a nice boiled egg but can't actually eat it? You try cracking it, rolling it, smashing it to get that delicious soft inside, but every time it just ends up being a crumble mess of shell and egg. What a mess. Well, not anymore, thanks to the German engineering and the Eierschalen-Zollprüfstellen-Verursacher. However, Guinness World Record listed the longest German word actually used in daily language as Rechtsschutzversicherungsgesellschaften at only 39 letters. To an outsider who doesn't speak German, these words just look absurd or comical, and they don't understand how a language could be so creative at slapping letters together to name something. Well, here is the trick I have learned since learning German. This one word is actually a lot of smaller words.
I kind of figured that out when I looked at it, but I still don't know what it means since I don't speak German.
Just smushed together to describe one thing. And this isn't something English speakers should find too unusual, considering we do the same thing to a degree. For example,
just we don't use that many words to do it.
Football, right?
Yeah, foot and ball can be separate words, but football together. Grandparent, grand and parent, grandparent.
And parent, fireman, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Only German allows for much longer and more complicated combinations. But essentially, if English had the same rules as German, this old law, which is translated like this, would simply
cattle marketing and beef labeling supervision duties delegation law. Why don't you just separate the words and just make one big, like that? I'm not German, so I'm not smart enough to understand that.
Simply be written like this. We once visited some friends in Berlin and watched The Voice of Germany with them. It felt like a single episode was going
The Voice of Germany.
On and on and on, not because we weren't enjoying it, but because it literally was going on forever. In fact, if you look at the TV schedule for Sat.1, you will see this single episode lasted for 2.5 hours. In the US, some shows do have 2-hour finales or specials, but we would say this seems to be fairly rare or just for special occasions. If we look at the US schedule for the American version of the same show, The Voice, we do see this rarity that aired, but the other airing is the normal 1-hour duration, and that is typically as long as a show will get in the US.
The show's duration is usually about 43 minutes. Now, it says an hour there, but 17 minutes is for commercials. So it's usually about 43 minutes.
Our friends we were watching this show with explained this is pretty normal in Germany, and since then, we have noticed it more with even other shows like a single Das große Backen episode, a spin-off of the Great British Baking Show, aired for 2.5 hours weekly as well. We have also seemed to notice that the show structures are the exact same as the US versions, but the German versions just take much more time getting through all the parts of the show, whereas the American versions seem to show the highlights and move on to the main points. And, by the way, if you thought a 2.5 hour episode of a show was long, some of our German viewers brought to our attention shows like Schlag den Raab, which was famous for sometimes having shows lasting 4 to 6 hours, or other shows like Wetten das, in which American actor Tom Hanks was once a guest and was so confused about why it went on so long that he was later quoted in a radio interview talking about this experience, saying for almost 3 hours he wished that someone would take him off the air. And
Yeah, I mean that's way, way too long for an American. You better let them know you're gonna be here for a long time. I don't know if anybody told Tom Hanks that, but that if someone in the U.S. made a TV show that lasted 4 hours, anyone responsible would be fired the next day. That's true.
if someone in the US made a TV show that lasted 4 hours, anyone responsible would be fired the next day. When Aubrey and I started our YouTube channel, we had just both left our jobs in the US and decided to travel full-time for a year. For many Americans we talked to and we told them we were going to travel for a year, they asked how we could do that, and we told them about how we had sold almost everything we owned, and this seemed to make it clear for them. In contrast, we visited my host family in Germany during that year while we were traveling, and when we told them that we sold everything to travel, they asked, wait, why did you sell everything? You were only traveling for a year? And this is one of many experiences we have had learning about how much longer Germans holiday.
Yeah, in America we don't get a lot of vacations from work. In Germany and Europe you do, and that does make me somewhat envious.
Than Americans, and the difference in perspectives of taking time off that we have. Now, not all Germans spend a year traveling, and to many Germans that
Yeah, I don't think that's it, but I'm pretty sure a lot of Germans, and I knew this in 2006 when I was there for the World Cup, a lot of Germans weren't working because they were taking their time off so they could watch the tournament.
That would be a very long time as well, but according to Statista, before the pandemic in 2019, when travel was much more normal, Germans on average would spend 12.3 days on vacations. But compared to the US, which the Washington Post called the US not a great vacation nation, this is a lot of time to spend on vacation. So yes, the US government doesn't guarantee any time off for workers, and a lot of foreigners assume, therefore, that Americans don't get time off. However, 90% of full-time workers do get paid time off from their employer.
Yeah, we get, look, the job I'm working at now, you get 3 weeks off, paid vacation. You also get personal time, but there's also a mandatory 5-day vacation which you have to take, which means that whether you want it to or not, you have to take these 5 days. They turn off your badge, they turn off your console, they don't allow you to do anything. You are off for 5 days in a row.
Employers. Normally, workers will start with about 10 days of vacation a year and earn
Not anymore. It's in the United States. It's not 10 days. It's more like 3 weeks, 15 days.
more over time. So the national average in 2018 was 23.9 days of personal time off. And I already know Germans are shocked at the fact that we aren't guaranteed time off, and are further shocked that even if we do get some, how little time off we get. But what I'm about to tell you is even more shocking. Many Americans don't use the time off they are given in a year. In fact,
Yeah, that is true. A lot of people just, it's not because they don't want to, or it's just a form of habit. There's a lot of people who just, I don't go on vacation. I don't like to travel. I don't like to do all these different things. And I have a good home work-life balance as it is. So I may as well just go and earn money while I'm doing it. So it's, now, not everybody feels that way, but there are people that do.
In fact, 55% of American workers did not use all their allotted time off in 2018. After Aubrey and I got married, we planned a 2-week vacation to the UK, and I stressed over if I was even allowed to take off 2 weeks straight and to use up my entire year's worth of time off, I might add.
Yeah, if you'd have done some research before you in Germany, then you would have known that was not going to be a problem.
Asked many of my coworkers before asking my boss if this was something that they had even seen others allowed to do, and many were left scratching their heads. In fact, 54% of US workers reported feeling guilty about taking vacation time. I also just recently saw a friend.
I've never felt guilty about taking vacation time. I feel if you give enough time to your employer and you have the time allotted to you, you can use it, and if they approve it, then you have nothing to worry about.
And post on Facebook, they were looking for a dog sitter while they go for a few weeks this summer on their honeymoon. One comment on the post said, "A few-week honeymoon?" And the friend responded, "Well, we've been waiting for over 2 years." On the flip side, we have German friends who will take 3-week vacations 1 to 2 times times a year. Or for example, we have some friends who will be taking their first trip to the US and will spend 2.5 weeks there. To Germans, this is normal. Maybe you can't feel it, but I can feel myself getting all worked up as I think back to how little time off we get in the US and how much longer of vacations Germans take with their ample time off, so I should probably just stop here. And on that,
yeah, you probably should stop there because you're going to make a lot of Americans upset. But no, look, it really depends on where you are and what you do and who you're. My father, for example, worked in the U.S. was in the U.S. Navy. He did not take vacations. He didn't want them, didn't need them. He had a great home wife balance. He's been with my mom for 55 years, and the only time he took vacations is when we were little, so he could take us to different places. But it's not something that he really looked forward to doing. He enjoyed working. Now he's retired now, and he's 80, and he does, uh, he's still active, still does a lot of things, uh, and is probably going to be around for a while longer. But that's just who he was and who he is.
That note, the final thing Germans do longer than Americans: live. To see.
Well, this is things do way more than Americans. You didn't say things do longer than Americans, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
Who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is, what is your least favorite vegetable to eat? Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Well, I don't know that I really care because I don't like any vegetables, not a whole lot of them as it is. So I'm not gonna answer your question. I'm not gonna type it in there or something like that. My least favorite vegetable is I probably couldn't find one. But hey, this is Passport 2. Please click like, share, and subscribe for them. And please click like, share, and subscribe for me. And have a good rest of your day. And thanks for watching. This was interesting.